perception and how he handles the situation. So we want to go ahead on Mike. We're going to go ahead and show one video, and then we're gonna go into it tonight. We're not going to be sugarcoating it. We're not going to be waiting around this bush, because there's serious things that's going on out here in our community, and we need to address it. We need to see how we, as police officers, as well as citizens, can bridge this gap between law enforcement and the community. And right now, there is a big gap. There is a big gap in how policing is being done and how we can correct this and how we can hold police officers accountable. We need to hold law enforcement officers accountable. That's what we're here for. And if you're doing the right thing by others while you're there, it's not a problem. Like we always said, you can videotape me all day long. It doesn't matter. If I'm doing the right thing, it's going to show. So go ahead on, Mike, and we're going to go ahead and roll this first one on out here so you can kind of take a look and see what's happening.
Which video do you want to start with?
We're gonna go ahead and start with you. I'll let you pick it, Mike. You the news correspondent. We'll let you start it out, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, we could just all right. Start with this one. All right. Can everybody see the video?
Yes.
Okay.
And this one's with Deontay Wright in the traffic stop.
Minnesota.
In Minnesota. Do we got sound, Mike?
Yeah, I don't think this sounds low on this. I don't know.
Okay, that's all right.
Turn that.
All right.
Had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr.
Okay. So now this was, in some cases, people might call it a routine or normal traffic stop. We try not to say routine, but we had a traffic stop. Everything by the eyes of us is looking at it. They had pulled the subject outside the car. After pulling the subject outside the car, they was proceeding to put handcuffs. I don't know what happened between the officer and the handcuffing part, but there was a pause in between that. She walks up and she said that it's, there's a warrant. And at that point, the subject decides to scuffle, gets back in the car. She does say, taser, 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 alerting the other officers that she is about to use a taser. In the mind of it, she actually didn't have a taser. She had her weapon and she fired inside the vehicle, striking the subject. Later, the subject succumbing to the gunshots of the officer. So now we want to, that's what I saw as an investigator watching and seeing subsequent. She actually, they said resigned, but I think she retired because she had over 26 years on. And she is being charged and she had her first court hearing today. I don't know about bond. I know that she had, I think, $100,000 bond based on the situation. But I want feedback on this. Oh, we got Bacard on here. He that's the, one of our instructors, recently retired, and supervisor. So we want to see what you saw and how some of this could have been resolved. Yeah.
Me?
Go ahead. We'll let you start out.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, if you've been around me, then you know how I think. Personally, I don't think police officers get to make mistakes. That's just the bottom line. So if you take that logic, then she's already flawed in my point of view, because the police officer has the responsibility to get it right. That's the bottom line. So that being the case, number one, she don't get to make a mistake. Number two, a police officer do not get the opportunity to be afraid or to ever be scared. Because if you find yourself in a position where you're afraid or you're scared, that means a training gap is somewhere in your training portfolio. Because training should be able to overcompensate for anything, any emotion that you might have initially in the first 3 to 5 seconds should be met with resistance by training. That's the bottom line. So in both cases, she's failed the responsibilities of a professional police officer, in my opinion. That number one, her training was lacking. And number two, she let her training, if the training was there in her portfolio, to be overcome by fear. Because that's the only two reasons why that happened, training or fear. So she has very...
cut the magnet in half too. Don't have the magnet so big on it too. I was just thinking about that.
Hey, Brian, mute your phone, bro.
Ryan.
I thought he was calling me a liar. Who was that, bro? But no, I look at it like this when somebody asks me about it, and I look at it like, one, what if that was your child? I don't care if she made a mistake or not, it's still unacceptable. Now, somebody asked that, did he resist? Yes, he resisted. That's first and foremost, yes. But that still ain't a death. You being a police officer, I think the problem is a lot of officers are relying on their weapons before they deal with they, right? Like, even at close count, it was probably difficult for her to take it first. Like, it was 3 officers at the car. Y'all could have put your hands on him to try to subdue him before you went to the taser. You know what I'm saying? And I think now with the training, a lot of the officers are relying on their weapons before anything else. Sometimes you gotta fight. And I think a lot of
Okay.
All right, somebody mute Brian's phone.
Mike, go ahead and mute Brian. Yeah. But I think you're correct. That's one thing that, you know, it baffled me that I saw that the officer had his hands on him and was putting cuffs, and he, in the process of his thing, he stopped. And, you know, it would have been no way you would have got back in that car if it was me. You already got you halfway out, you ain't getting back in. So the hands-on piece was a big problem, not only for the, I guess they said she was a field training officer as well, but as the officer that was in field training did not, to me, he should have never let him get back in the car.
But when you say that about her, that she was a field training officer and she was 26 years on, every jurisdiction is different. Just because you got 26 years on don't mean you an expert or you ever actually went hands-on with somebody. We got people that got 26 years on and they've been driving the wagon for the last 25 years. So at the end, no disrespect to anybody driving the wagon, but at the same time, you're not used to using some of the tools that you have. When the last time she used that taser?
Money.
I want to know. What'd you say? What'd you say?
I like somebody was counting money.
No, so that's Danny, man. Danny Rich. So the whole thing about it is, when you say 26 years on, I think we instantly believe that makes her like an expert. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that even if she worked at the academy, she wasn't comfortable in what she was doing. We was taught you should be able to know where everything is at on your gun belt in the dark, because most of the time, for some of you, you're gonna be working at night. So you need to be knowing where the stuff is regardless. Then from the movie Fruitville Station, with the incident happened up in Seattle, our tasers is on the opposite side of your belt, so you don't confuse the two. So it's one of those things where I don't know. It's like, nah, man, I'm not necessarily buying it.
Well, not only that, Todd, the methodology is different. The deployment is different, right? There's so many factors to alert you on which tool is in your hand. It's almost unmistakable. Because when you draw the taser, if you bring it up to your line of sight, you're going to see that the color is not even the right color, right?
Well, some of them got black tasers. Some people,
Yeah,
but
they have yellow ones though.
But at the same time, that's still no. If you that scared that you're not realizing what you grabbing, then that's a problem.
Right. So I asked this question. And let's ponder this for a second. Is being afraid of Black people, if you will, the same as being racist?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I think
Yes.
it is. And I think if
Because
you put a white
obviously,
guy-
go ahead, Sarge.
yeah, I think if that suspect is white, they approach it a little differently. I didn't see any reason to be scared. Honestly, he never swung at the officer. He just was trying to get away. I don't understand why the fear was so strong in her. You could hear it in her voice. She was scared. No question about it. So I think you're right. I think you're onto something there. I think she was scared. It's possible she's scared because of this black guy.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Because other than any other contributing factors, other than his skin color, that's the only thing that she was possibly afraid of. And it heightened her to the degree where she just got discombobulated, grabbing tools that's not even reasonable for the situation, just completely out of control. So let's evaluate that. I think there's a legitimate argument that outside of racism itself, that people are genuinely scared of colored skin.
And if that's the case, then they don't need to be the police, because okay, we don't always come in contact with just Black people. How you feel about Asian people, Mexican people, whatever? The whole thing about it is everybody deserves to be treated the same regardless. And if you have a problem or any type of fear of one particular race or gender or whatever, you don't need to be doing this job. You don't have to be the police. Even if you've been there 26 years, if you feel like you uncomfortable with your skill set, do something else. Because everybody ain't going for just letting you kill their child like just happened. All I keep thinking about is, what if that was my child? You know what I'm saying? I don't care about you. All this different stuff, factors, I don't care about that. I'm coming for revenge. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm tired of that.
I'm in the cops in.
We've had law enforcement talk a little bit about this. So we got some people out here, or citizens. Go ahead and express what you actually saw on the video and what concerns you have. Anybody?
Well, hey, I'll jump in here as a civilian. Back to the whole thing about race and the role it plays in policing. I couldn't agree more that generally you're going to have white officers who have no interactions in their lives with people of color, the people that don't look like them, that are getting thrown into these environments, and you're asking them to interact. And I'm not saying that every man and woman is not responsible for their own actions, but is that a failure on the police department? Should the training be there? I mean, that's part of the job, right? You guys take like psychological exams, things like that. I mean, I know you can only train so much, but I would imagine through the training process and the interview process, you can kind of find out what somebody's about, what kind of exposure they've had. And does the police department need to do a better job of making sure, if you take this kid out of East Cobb who's never been in the city, but you think he can be a good cop, maybe you require him to work in programs with kids in the inner city so they get to learn the communities they're policing. Because I think overall, in general, it's not just policing. I just remember growing up, I knew every neighbor on my block. I could go to this person's house for this and that. Nowadays, it feels like nobody knows anybody anymore. I mean, I couldn't tell you any of my neighbors are. So, and I think we hear it a lot from people on here. They say, I don't know the cops who patrol my area. So is it kind of, I think it's community and police, right?
Okay.
I think the academy now, they take them to the Civil Rights Museum while in the academy for that reason, so that you can have an understanding for where you're working, some of the things that has happened in the past, so history doesn't repeat itself. But at the same time, that's Atlanta. Everywhere is different. When you go to some of these other cities, you're right. Some of them don't have interaction with Black people. Some of them don't have Black people around them. And how do you fix that? Like, if the department isn't willing to fix it, who else is to fix it? Because up in
Right, I think.
when you look at Brooklyn City, you can tell they weren't prepared for this. The chief wasn't even prepared to talk about it.
And I also think that here's the thing. I think, like you said, like we're in a major metropolitan area here, right? Like a lot of diversity. And then you get into these towns in the middle of nowhere and there's no diversity. But I think, I mean, people can evolve. And I'm not saying the tasing, put that aside, but I'm just saying in general, if somebody's some, country boy who's never been around anybody of color, but they might have a good heart, they've just never been exposed to a city environment. I don't think you should be discounted or discriminated. Like you shouldn't be a cop because of that, but you need to learn, you need to grow. And I'm sure everybody here on APD, how you patrol in Buckhead is way different how you patrol on the Southwest side. I mean, that's just reality. So I think there needs to maybe be a better job of teaching not just the fundamentals of policing, but also how to have empathy and how to be actually a human being. That's the thing. Like, I think a lot of times people don't look at the cops as human beings and vice versa. These cops look at like these people as like, they're not human beings. And I think they need to understand what's going on in these communities to police them the right way.
And like, I agree and kind of disagree, and I agree at the same time. I came from Charlotte, North Carolina, and now I'm in Las Vegas, but this time last year in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was having these conversations with police. And one of the things that I found were the police that were from West Charlotte were not the ones that were patrolling West Charlotte. And if you know anything about Charlotte, you can't take a white boy from Huntersville and throw him into West Charlotte, and it doesn't matter that they're 5 miles apart from each other. So I think a big thing that police need to start implementing with their training is before just assigning these people to the neighborhood, have them go out to these police officers go out to the neighborhood, have them go to the local basketball games, football games, have them go to the local schools, have them meet the people in the communities that they're going to be patrolling, so that when it comes up in a situation where, like in Charlotte, North Carolina, there was a deaf man that was shot, and neighbors say he walked around all the time. The fact that the police officer that patrols that neighborhood every single day and had patrolled that neighborhood every single day for 2 years didn't know that that man was deaf and he ended up getting shot, that's not the community. That's the police not taking time to learn who is in their community. Things like that just shouldn't happen. And that didn't have anything to do with, color or anything. It had everything to do with he didn't know the people in his neighborhood and didn't react appropriately.
Yeah, let me ask one question just to all the police on here. Are we demanding too much? When I say I'm saying collectively as a community, because of the staffing issues. We know how understaffed you are. We know resources are being stretched to the max. Are we as a community demanding too much of law enforcement?
Michael, I'm going to pretty much side with Thompson. I don't see her first name, Eve Thompson. I think that what you're asking a police department should do is to take responsibility for integration, right? Because if you're saying that we're taking people out of communities where they had no association with
No,
people.
I'm saying you gotta share the responsibility. This responsibility has to be shared. Both, I think it goes both ways.
All right, so the department has to share something what the individual himself has not taken any responsibility for,
I'm sorry.
right?
What's that?
You're asking the department to take responsibility for something the individual as himself or herself have not taken responsibility for. If they live in these communities or are part of this society we call America, then they have had some time or some opportunity to have dialogue or engage somebody of a different race before you even join the police department. Because believe it or not, and everybody who's a police officer on this call would tell you that there's some segregation within the police department. There are some cliques. There are some cliques where you only deal with black officers. Black officers only deal with black officers. White officers only deal with white officers. So if you come from that environment where you've only dealt with people of your race, as soon as you come into the department, your clique is gonna become a clique that only deals with your race.
But what I'm saying, no, absolutely, I think you're spot on. But I'm saying, can there not be somebody that can take somebody under their wing and say, hey, listen, this is how you go. Just like what Eve was saying, this is how you do things in this community, and make the introduction. I mean,
I think we went over this early on in Clippers and Cops, and I think when we did it at the art gallery, I think it's an obligation of the police department or knowing your beat, knowing the people on your beat, and that's just like when somebody has autism or something like that. I think the police should kind of know, but I think it's an obligation of the family also to go introduce that person or alert them like, hey, this is cousin so and so. He has autism. If he has a problem, this how you deal with him. Because when you say, are we putting too much responsibility on the law enforcement? Every cop don't know how to deal with someone with special needs. You know what I'm saying? And although you would think that the officer would have compassion for that person to say, oh, or know how to deal, some don't. Some will treat, just like she's saying, they shot a deaf person because they felt like he wasn't following their commands, because guess what? He couldn't hear them. So I think it's a two-way street also though. Like, I think the officers should go, but I also think the family should go introduce if they have someone with special needs like that.
Right, Todd, I think Michael's asking a different question. I think if I'm reading him correctly, he's saying that once we take somebody out of the Midwest who's only been exposed to their race, white if you will, and we bring them to an urban environment like Atlanta, we are responsible for introducing them to that culture. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they should take some responsibility and get to know the culture before they make a decision to come to this urban environment.
I said the shared responsibility.
All right, the shared responsibility.
I think at the same time, it's a shared responsibility, and it's on the officer to get to know the people that serve, to be a part of the fabric of that community. The whole thing about being a police officer, we all was rookies. We all got dry. If you ain't, most of us that's on this call work in an area that you didn't grow up in. I didn't grow up in Atlanta. I didn't know anything about Atlanta, but I took it upon myself to get to know the people on my beat. And over time, they got to know me. And then over years and years, we had a relationship. But I think that some officers, all they do is come to work and they answer their call and they go home. And honestly, are they wrong for that? Not really. But at the same time, that's why some of this stuff keeps happening, because they don't have to see the people's family at church. Like we were talking about the other day, a lot of these relationships are cultivated when the officer lives in the community. For some of us, we can't afford to live in some of the communities in Atlanta because it's too expensive. Or you got to live somewhere kind of crappy, and then you become a target because they know what shift I work, they know what gear I got in the house, then my door getting kicked in and stuff like that. So it's a lot of factors that go into it. But at the same time, I think they should, like she said, they should have to go to a community engagement or something and why not? What is the harm? When we reinvented Apex, they had us sit in community meetings and listen to the gripes of the community because they wanted us to get a feel for it. And some of the Apex officers was like, oh, this ain't for me. And they put in and they didn't want to go to Apex because they didn't want to do that. And I think some of these officers wouldn't want to do that.
Hey, let me just say what Mike was talking about. You made a point of taking somebody up under their wing. I know we talked about this before, and I know that the department is really working towards it, and it's one of the things that I know the command staff and a group of us have been working on, and that is the mentoring program. So just like Pick said, you bring somebody from the Midwest, or hell, it could be somebody here in Georgia, North Georgia, that's never been, around any Black people, or Black people that have never been around white people, and allow them the opportunity to be mentored. So that mentor can have them explain to them about certain neighborhoods, dealing with people, dealing with other race, and so forth. I think that will go a long way, and I know the department is working to really institute it. So, how do y'all feel about this mentoring program? Because I know I've seen it work in other states, in other police departments. Not only does it, I think it creates a.
So LT, would that not be a part of the field training process?
No, it's totally different from field training, because field training, they're working towards some type of measurement. You see what I'm saying? Like how well are you writing reports, or how well you doing, not finding out about that officer, getting to know them, understanding that everybody, all of us, even everybody on this call, come into every situation with some type of bias, implicit or explicit bias. So to have somebody that's a veteran that can talk to them, that can work around or rearrange those biases and get them to see things from other people's point of view. Because if you look at the news and everything that goes on, what are we saying most of the time as Black people? White folks don't understand what we're going through. They don't understand what we've been going through, and what we have to deal with. So when you have somebody that's a veteran, or somebody that can sit down and explain and mentor Black, white, or whatever race is, and mentor them and explain and talk to them and show them the right way, I think that would definitely go a long way. Again, it's worked in a lot of other departments, and I know we're definitely trying to get it moving forward.
So Carter, with that program, that should probably start at a recruit level. I mean, that should be like a day one.
You're absolutely right. Don't mean to cut you off. And so what we talked about doing was what the department should do, just as a snippet of what we talked about, was as soon as they are hired on.
Yep.
And we have different phases of mentorship. There will be different phases of the mentorship program, because, and Pick, who's at the academy for as long as I was, can definitely tell you, we lose a lot of people mentally in that time when they're in training, or within that first year, on all different types of mental things. So definitely, as soon as they get hired, is what the plan is.
Yeah, so I agree with that 100%. So actually, a lot of people don't know what's going on right now on North Ave in the Bluff. They're building a 30 apartment complex specifically for police recruits. It'll be done in October. So that's for Atlanta police recruits who come into the city, who aren't from the city, to live in the city, in the Bluff. And then working with Watson at the academy, there's going to be curriculum to kind of send them to into the community to go to attend meetings. And this is starting at a recruit level. This is the first time I've heard of that mentorship part of it, but we should definitely push towards that.
I'm still stuck, and I'm gonna ask this question one more time
Okay.
because I think Michael has hit a valid point.
What?
We all agree by opening this conversation saying that her actions was the result of fear. We all agree on that, right?
Yes.
And that her fear might have been predicated.
No, I don't agree with that.
Who didn't agree with that?
Danny.
Me.
It's Danny. Let's go, Danny.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, who are you to say she was in fear?
I can look at her actions and tell that her fear overrode her training. Anytime training is overridden, it's overridden by emotions, not skills, but emotions. The only emotion that was feasible in that particular situation was fear.
Well, in my opinion, the bottom line is you weren't there. I wasn't there. Neither of us know if she was in fear or not. In my opinion, I think it was a. Go ahead.
Well, if she wasn't in fear, she would have never fired her weapon.
Let him talk. Let him talk. Let him talk.
Okay.
Go ahead, Danny. Go ahead, Danny.
Okay. All right.
No.
Go ahead.
We can all Monday morning quarterback. Obviously, there were some issues that went on with him being stopped at the outside the door. He should have been taken to the back. Here is a lady who has been on the force for 26 years and evidently not one blemish on her record. Now, granted, she probably hasn't been on the street in quite some time. I understand she was an FTO. It is my opinion, I am no police officer whatsoever, that in the heat of the moment, many things can happen, whether it's a police officer or whoever the case may be. She made a horrible mistake. Yes, she does need to be held accountable. I was going to chime in later and I was going to ask Booker if Booker was because I kind of know Booker in a sense when it comes to the black-white thing. If Booker, you can answer this after pick, but if you were a juror, if you found her guilty, I would like to know how much time you would give her in jail. Number one, and then a follow-up really quickly before y'all get to talking again, is it's interesting, and I understand that Black people have been in fear of the police for many years, are even more in fear now because of everything that's portrayed. But let me just ask this, how come no one not one time has said, if you know that the police may shoot you these days, and it's such an ongoing thing, why are you still trying to flee?
Let me
Why does that have to be a thing? Why do y'all consistently take in white men with no problem at all, whether they flee, fight, kick? Let me finish. Whether they flee, fight, kick. There was an incident not too long ago where they had a shootout with a white man and they did not kill him. They did not shoot back at him and he was shooting at them. It should not have to be a thing because at the end of the day, protect and serve also means that I get to make it to my day in court. You have other ways and there's no way in heck that if you are a trained professional that you should hold your gun for almost 12 seconds on someone, apply 5 pounds of pressure and say, oops, I thought it was my taser. At some point, it shouldn't have to matter that, oh, police might shoot me, so I might do this. Because police should say, oh, they might run, let me prepare my running shoes. But me dying should not occur from me running from the police. Absolutely not. That should not be a thing.
So each case is done separately, but the vast majority of these white people, they're giving up. They're putting their hands up. Are you just supposed to shoot to shoot? No, you're not supposed to do that.
Philando Castile was reaching for his ID. Breonna Taylor was laying in her bed
Philando
asleep.
Castile, if that's the one that was in Minnesota, he was told to keep his hands on the steering wheel. He was told specifically to keep his hands on the wheel. He made the mistake and he moved his hands. He made the mistake, young lady.
Hold on.
We can agree to that's not the Philando Castile, but okay, that's not the Philando Castile.
He was the one that was showing his ID. I mean, was showing his ID. He was a passenger in the car, and he actually was showing his ID when the officer felt he was threatened and actually shot him because he was telling him he had a permit to have a weapon and never brandished a weapon, never did anything of that nature. So, the eyes of law in some cases look differently from the eyes of people in color. So I understand, Danny. I appreciate your ability to look at things on your perspective. I appreciate that because people of color.
I don't disagree with Danny, but this is what Danny need to understand. Regardless of what the perpetrator does, good or bad, the police officer still has to be right.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. The
I
police
agree with
officer
that.
still has, regardless of what they do,
The surgeons.
whether they comply or don't comply.
I agree. She needs to be held accountable.
All right.
So let me ask you, Pick. I would like to hear Booker's response too. If you're a juror and this case took place tomorrow, how much jail time would you give her, if any?
Well, we're not going to go that is an ongoing case, and the jury is going to make that decision. And
Yeah,
it's
but
gonna
that's
be
what we
built-
are. We're playing judge and jury right here. Why not answer the
But we're
question?
not going to play that tonight, Danny.
But the jury-
Say something.
the
Can I
jury
say
What's the
something?
point of Clippers and
I'll
Cops?
play executioner every time you shoot us.
I would
But
like
she's
to
not
say
playing
something.
executioner.
Go ahead, Audrey. Let Audrey speak. Go ahead, Audrey.
The kid shouldn't have ran.
But
Hold on.
okay,
Audrey, go ahead.
let's stop at the jail time. Let's stop. I'm a daughter of a cop. Okay, NYPD, homicide, narcotics, and homicide. Right, and the real question is pension, and you all know it. So stop it. So I think it's interesting that she resigned, right? Because she knew that if she resigned, rather than being fired, it protected her pension. Let's all be real. Let's talk about it. I think I've held a gun. I don't own guns. I'm actually scared of guns. My father showed my brother Corey and I guns when we were kids and said, don't ever touch this. This is where it is. Don't ever touch it. I have held the gun. I've held the taser. And I know the difference. And I think it is insensitive to get into the whole thing, to hold discussion on, okay, so how much jail time should she do for killing this kid? This is a kid at the end of the day, right? And when we talk about, oh, why didn't he just comply? Why did he run? I was talking to my brother, Corey, today, who is 40 years old and who is an actuary mathematical scientist, no criminal record. And he said to me today, Audrey, I think I would have ran too, because I would have felt safer in my car. Because I would have felt like maybe I at least have a chance. So this is coming from a Black man who is accomplished, no criminal record, and who still was like, I would have driven away too, because I would have been scared of what would have happened to me. I think I would have had a better chance. So I think we should at least start this conversation from that point of view, instead of, oh, so how much jail time should she get? I think it should, we really should talk about the fact that pension plays a part in all of this, and let's just be honest about it. That's the reason why she resigned, right? Before getting fired. Because I know, and I'm gonna say this and I'll be done. I promise Michael Sidon, I'm not gonna do a big thing.
You ain't in.
I know.
Fine, we like you. It's
No,
okay.
please, no, stop, because I don't want to get into a whole thing. I remember my father driving home he was in the precinct in Far Rockaway, Queens, and I grew up on Long Island. He would drive from Far Rockaway, Queens to Long Island every day, and he would say, baby, the only reason this is my pension. The pension is what matters. So let's really talk about that. And I think we have to be honest about it. Stop. How much time do you think? I work for WSB TV in Atlanta. If I shot and killed Michael Sidon, I will go to prison for the rest of my life. So let's stop it with the whole, how much jail time do you think she should get? She killed somebody. At the end of the day, he was unarmed. You had his license, you had his plate number, you had all of his information. He was a 20-year-old kid. And I don't even want to start into the whole thing of the fact that these kids get wrapped up into the system, by the way, over dumb stuff. Let's be real. You know why he was stopped? Because he had an expired tag during the pandemic and crap hanging from his rearview mirror. Okay. He also, when they ran his tags, they found out that he had a misdemeanor for what? Missing court. Why? Because he didn't have a permit for a gun. Not because he held up a convenience store. not because he killed somebody, not because of drugs, because he didn't have a permit for a gun at 20 years old. A gun
All
that-
the more reason, young lady.
I'm
you
almost
should've-
done.
you
Almost
should've,
done, Danny. Almost done. Gun that he probably got at 19, 18, 17 years old. Let's be real, right? So is that a death sentence? I don't know, right? But Minnesota police also, well, in the state of Minnesota, they also released a video of what happened today of a guy evading police who was armed and ran over a police officer, and he lived to tell the story. So I just think we have, and this man happened to be white. I just think we got to be real when we're talking about this. So that's where I'm at with that, and I'll stop. So I'll shut up.
Okay, we're gonna go on to another video so that
Okay.
Mike, you're gonna go with another video.
Yeah, I wanted to play some. I mean, I just wanted. It's a 3-minute clip. It was on. I just think it kind of hits, in my opinion.
Okay.
Especially for people who look like me that don't understand what's going on. I think this kind of hits the nail on the head.
Okay.
All right, hold on.
Okay, run the clip.
All right, let me know if you guys can hear. All right, can you hear this?
Well, I just think
Can you guys hear that?
people
Yeah.
a completely unfair standard on both sides. Police are considered to be superhuman and saints, and as opposed to just city employees, that some do bad stuff and some do good stuff. No, they're saints, they're superheroes. We have to believe everything they say. And then a young Black kid is presumptively a subhuman, and anything that he does is dangerous. Anything that he or she says is talking back, if it's not just yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And so you have this completely unfair double standard. But there's a deeper problem, which is that the policing methodology that we have in the country right now is both dumb and dangerous and discriminatory. It is dumb to have all these cops out here with all these weapons, tasers and pepper spray and batons and guns and dogs and drones, pulling people over for like little, what do you call it, your taillights out? You're gonna throw that much firepower against communities on stuff like that? Send them something in the mail. I mean, why do we, so it's just dumb to direct this much firepower. No other country does this. This much armed personnel against such petty offenses. That's dumb. And it's dangerous for both sides, because why are you pulling all these people over doing this stuff? Everybody's terrified, everybody's afraid, and it's discriminatory because, first of all, they pull people of color over all the time. The numbers are completely clear on this. And then the interaction is completely different. I have a white female friend who says she was pulled over recently for a similar infraction, and all she got was a talking to and have a nice day, man. There's something going on. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to say, we need to completely, as Obama said, reimagine policing. We don't need this much firepower going after little petty stuff. It's dangerous for everybody, and it's discriminatory, and everybody knows it. But you've got, if you want to understand, I don't have to agree with you, but imagine there was a group of people in your neighborhood that had guns and were always disrespectful and aggressive and showed you, and there was no trust. When they came at you, how easily would it be for you to panic? That's what's going on with these young African Americans, these young Latinos and Latinas. They don't have the same interaction that you do. Your interaction is going to be, you wouldn't run from a cop because you feel like you could talk your way through whatever it was. These young people have never experienced it. They've never seen it. And if you don't believe it, look at their reaction. Look at how panicked they get. It's the same way that you would get if you saw somebody armed. You don't see the badge, you see the gun. You don't see the authority, you see the pattern of disrespect, and you react to that. That's what's going on with this young generation.
I hear you. And I appreciate you going to the audience. On the split screen, you see exactly the reaction that Van is trying to help people understand a little bit better. Those umbrellas are not for the.
All right, Mike. Dan, you got your hand raised again?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the young lady real quick, that she was saying that the misdemeanor this and the misdemeanor that, if that's all the more reason. It's such a simple thing for the young man to do. Go downtown, take care of your issues, and you go home the same day, most likely on little misdemeanor warrants like that.
But Danny,
So he deserves to die?
You know what, Danny? I agree. But if you heard what Van Jones just said, who I am not a proponent of, and Michael Simon knows that. But
Yes, I'm not a Van Jones fan whatsoever.
Don't,
So I don't.
Audrey, don't co-sign on nothing Van Jones just said.
But I agree with Van Jones said, and that's why I made the example of my brother who has no criminal record, who's an actuary mathematical scientist, which I still to this day do not understand what it is that he does, right? But I know it's important, and it's something with banks and money and numbers, right? To the fact that he even said to me, I would be scared. I would run away too. I would drive away too, because you feel safer in your car. You feel like I have a better chance if I run. So Danny, I understand what you're saying when you're like, well, why don't you just be like, yo, okay, I got this misdemeanor. Let me go home, let me go to the jail, let me get bailed out. But that's not the thinking. The thinking is, and if you look at the situation in Virginia with the lieutenant, this is a lieutenant in the Army who had no criminal record, and what did he say when he had his hands out of the vehicle?
Hold on.
Excuse me.
Audrey.
I would like to finish.
We're gonna show that video in a minute. We're gonna show that video in a minute.
But I would like to, okay, you can show the video, but I would like to finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Hands out, and he said, what? I'm kind of scared to step out of the vehicle right now. That's real. You feel like, okay, this could be it. I could die in this interaction. Even though I agree with you, Danny, I thought the same thing when I saw the video. I was like, well, why don't he just take a ride downtown? You'll be bailed out in 4 hours at the most, whatever, and you'll handle it. But it's the systemic issue behind it. It's the root of it. Why are these Black boys wrapped into this system over dumb stuff at the end of the day? They get wrapped up into the system, right? And a lot of it is almost what's called the Black tax, which means like you get wrapped up into these systems and you got to pay money that you don't have to go to all these different court dates and pay all this stuff off and whatever. So there's a lot behind it. And you really do feel like it's a life or death. I'm either going to live or die. I'm either going to live or be a hashtag. I think the perfect example, and I'll say this and I'll be done, but I think the perfect example is that situation in Virginia. This was a lieutenant in the Army who had no criminal record, and he was still just as scared
in uniform.
He was just as scared as
In uniform. In his uniform.
right, yes, and he was in his uniform, and he was just as scared as Dante. He was just as scared as Philando Castile. He was just as scared as Eric Gardner. He was just as scared as Trayvon Martin. It's real, where you feel like this is it. This could be it. So yeah.
Let's run that video, Mike. Let's run that video because since we rolling into that, let's go ahead and run that video, Mike, so that we can take a look at this. Service member in uniform in Virginia being stopped by the police for about a tag.
First off, why you already got him at gunpoint? He's doing everything that we told people to do ourselves. Why does he have him at gunpoint already? That's what I want to know. Before anything.
Out the window?
Who was that? His lawyer?
Yeah.
Plain disrespect. That's blatant disrespect. If somebody telling you they're afraid, at that point, you should be trying to work with them, especially with all the jargon about respect the military, this, that, the other. Once you saw his uniform, it should have been a level of respect right there to know, like, somebody in the military uniform can harm you, but at the same time, chances are he got too much to lose to want to even try to do anything. And so that's why all this back the military, back the blue jargon is crap. Because at the end of the day, I think they was in fear because he was black. Period.
Either that or they wanted to exude dominance over him.
I don't know. It's just
Danny, why you steady calling people out? How do you feel about that narrative?
Oh, I think those two officers were completely wrong. Should have been terminated on the spot.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you about the narrative of, you know, all these quote unquote right-wing Trump supporters and things of that nature that keep throwing the back the blue, and, you know, they bash Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee, how it disrespected the military, but yet and still somebody in plain uniform wasn't even given the rights or respect, when that's supposed to be their mantra. That's supposed to be what they stand on. You know, how do you feel about that, since you calling people out today?
Right. Well, first of all, I don't know the you know, I only know what was shown by the body cams. But again, those two officers were completely wrong. I don't think I would correlate Trump to what happened to that, you know, to that officer.
It's not even about, it's bigger than just him. It's about what his supporters say they stand for. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
I'm saying that I've been a part of a lot of groups where this whole military, we love the troops and things of that nature. We love police when they went to the Capitol and beat the hell out of police, and then they doing this to a man in uniform. So yeah, like Dennis said, it's bullshit.
I think it's a totally different sect of people that are doing that. But my answer to you on that would be simply that we don't have to worry about Trump or his supporters at the present. We got 4 more years to worry about him again.
So let's look at the whole
negative, but whatever.
But by me being both military, prior military, retired, and being a police officer, this is appalling. This is the disgrace to the law enforcement community. Bakar, you military, we got Nita, we got a whole bunch of other people who are prior military service that's in here and that have went and served their country and then come back and serve local government, state government, and federal government in law enforcement. And to see this take place and is very appalling. He did everything that we talk about here on Clippers and Cops. Everything to show your hands. Don't, you know, he had his hands out. He's in uniform. He's complying. They got they act like it's a felony stop. I'm like, over a tag, that is not a felony stop. But they treat it like it's a felony stop.
They said it was a felony stop.
They said felony stop. Yeah, I don't know why, because it wasn't.
Well, they said it was a felony stop because what he did was exactly what we tell people to do: go to a well-lit place and pull over. So he kept driving, I believe, trying to get to the well-lit place. And once he got to the well-lit place, they took it as he was trying to flee. But the moment he stuck his arm out the window and you saw his uniform, that in itself should have kind of gave you an inkling like, all right, this ain't just Joe Blow. This is a military guy. And unless he having a mental episode, he deserves some type of respect. But
Yeah,
let me tell you this though. Let me tell you this though. I got pulled over today. Right? And I swear to God, this is a true story. And all I did, I stuck my hand on the outer window. It was a white officer. I ain't show no badge, no nothing. I just explained to him why I knew why he stopped me and so forth and so on. And we probably had a 5-minute interaction. And he said, have a good day. But I'm also in a sweater, so he probably felt like I was like Carlton or somebody. But at the same time, I'm just saying it does happen. Sometimes it does go right. Like just being real. Like majority of the time it goes right. But as like Picard said in the beginning, we can't afford for it to go wrong because at the end of the day, that's somebody's life. And you should have better regard for somebody's life, what you're handling, and what you're doing. And if you can't do that, find something else to do.
Well, what told me everything I needed to hear was the fact that when the lieutenant said, you know, I'm scared, that his comment was, "You damn right, you better be." Like that told me everything I needed to know about him.
But he was going at a slow rate as well when he drove to the lit area. He didn't speed up. He was going at a slower rate. And just I worry about what would have happened to him had he not gone to a place where there was, you know, lit up other people and things like that. I'm glad that he did, you know, go somewhere where he had some, and there was some witnesses and things like that, because that scares me. If they treated him like that, he slowed down, you know, and we're all taught that not to pull over where there is no light, drive to a well-lit area, and, you know, put your flashers on, go at a slower speed so they know that you're not speeding and things like that, or trying to run away. So what would have happened to this man? I mean, thank goodness his tag ended up being a good tag. He followed all orders and things like that, from what I read. It wasn't a bad tag.
He also said you're gonna ride the Lightning tonight too, by the way. Which, what does that mean?
Let me say this.
Is that the electric chair? Like, what the hell does that mean?
You gonna tase him. That's what that means.
Oh, okay. And I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to note that he was Gutierrez, right? Was the officer who got fired? That he was with a much younger police officer. So I wonder if some of that was bravado. I wonder if some of that was like, here, I'm going to show you how to do this. The same thing that happened in Minneapolis. And you have to remember that officer in Minneapolis, right, in Brooklyn Center, was training. She was on training when that happened, right? So I wonder how much of a lot of this stuff is bravado. I wonder how much of a lot of this stuff is, let me show you how to lock up, you know.
All right, so since we are a part of this platform is to educate the public, let's absolutely get it right, right? The rule is, and the saying is, that you can pull into a well-lighted area, but the other stipulation to that is that you immediately call 911, so 911 can tell the officers that are behind you what you're doing, so that can de-escalate the situation. Absent that, and the officer, and let's not be a hypocrite about it, absent that, the officer is going to assume that you are failing to obey his command. There's no other way about it. Now, here's what I would say to Audrey. And I'm talking from strictly a police officer's point of view. There are warranted fears, unwarranted fears, genuine fears, and ungenuine fears. It is up to the officer to make that determination on the sidewalk, standing next to that person who is displaying those fears. We have to have some very, very unique skills to be able to do that. Because you can say you're afraid, but I'm not going to assume you're afraid and more or less jeopardize the way I should handle this. Anybody can say they're afraid, because there are perpetrators who will try to fake officers out and say they're afraid when they're not really afraid. So you're putting the officer in a difficult situation. All I would say 100% of the time is the officer to do what is right. If you do what is right, regardless of if the person is afraid or not afraid, it's going to work out right. Officers cannot make mistakes, and we cannot make excuses for them making mistakes. That's the bottom line. So whether we say she was fear, and I absolutely believe it was fear, because if you're not willing to say that it was bias or racism, then you have to say it was fear. no reason that any reasonable officer would introduce a tool, a deadly force tool, into a low-risk encounter. It makes no sense, especially when you got multiple backup officers on the scene. But I'm not going to buy into, and I love you, Audrey, I'm not going to buy into the lack of accountability. I don't care what the charge is, right? Because you start not holding people accountable for small things, that gives that person the avenue to do larger things.
Yeah.
So no, let me finish. We let you finish, right?
Yeah.
Because the part of the law is to teach responsibility. That's part of the law, to hold you accountable so you do not keep doing the same actions over and over again. So if I don't hold you accountable for your tag this year, what's going to make you get your tag the following year or the year after? Because nobody's holding you accountable.
Right, no. And Warren, I understand about accountability. And I believe I did say in the beginning of my spiel that, you know, in the case of Dante, I feel like, do I think he set some things in motion? Yeah, I do. But do I think the consequence is execution?
That we agree on. That we agree on.
That's what I'm saying. I understand all that, but I do think you have to look at the fact that there are young Black men in this country that are rightfully scared, that react in a certain way. And I know we haven't gotten to this yet, but one of my reporter friends who's in Chicago, sent me the video of the Toledo boy in Chicago.
That's like all these.
Okay, we haven't gotten to it yet. Oh, hold on.
I want to say something. Let me say something. It's like pouring gasoline on all of these situations, because that shooting here in St. Louis, they just released a shooting that they held for 20 months, and they're releasing it all at the same time, pouring gasoline on the situation. Not saying that they should have been released. I don't understand why it takes long to release.
No, but wait, hold on. There are reasons why release dates get delayed. There's stuff with the DA's office and everything like that. I don't think it's pouring gasoline. I think it's showing real, like, what's happening. And I think the Chicago thing is problematic. And anyone who has not seen that video, I urge them to watch it, because the initial narrative, right? If I'm not mistaken, is that he had a gun in his left hand or right hand or whatever. But in the video, he dropped the gun and he's like this. And that guy killed a 13-year-old child. 13-year-old child. I think Warren.
Why did the 13-year-old child have a gun in the beginning?
Right, Kim, you already know. Please, I totally agree with you. I was just about to say that. Why a 13-year-old child has a gun?
Is this the one that got shot in the chest?
Yes,
But the
ma'am.
21-year-old
Yes,
gave it to
found the
him.
gun, but they found the gun behind the
21-year-old gave it to him.
Right, but in the video, Kim, and I don't know if you've seen the video.
I saw it today.
Okay, in the video, he says, drop the gun, and he goes like this.
He tossed it over.
And he
No,
shoots
I
him.
don't.
That didn't exactly happen that way.
It did. If you look at the video,
He tossed it several times.
If you look at the video, 3 seconds.
Guys,
Excuse me.
Hold on for a
excuse me.
second. Hold on. Based upon where he was shot at and where the gun was located and recovered, it looks like he tossed it.
Yeah.
He looked like he tossed it.
No. I said
he was
that.
given the gun by a 21-year-old. But he did not have the gun. He did not have the gun in the same area where he was shot, is what I'm saying. He tossed it before he stopped and turned around.
Mr. Booker, if I can say, I didn't say that. I didn't say that he didn't toss the gun. I said the gun, and it's a split second. It's literally 3 seconds to watch it. It's literally 3 seconds, and it goes like this, and he goes like that, and then that's when he shoots him. It's a split second decision. But I'm just saying this to say, and really, I'm not someone who's anti-cop at all, because I'm a daughter of a cop. I feel like I have to keep saying that over and over again. And I understand these split second decisions, but I also understand why some people are scared and they make these dumb decisions. Like just what, Kim, just what you said. Why is a 13-year-old with a gun in Chicago? Like why? But there's a lot of, but you know, Kim, like I know, there are a lot of factors behind why a 13-year-old is sitting up there with a gun in Chicago.
And here in St. Louis.
Exactly the same reason why a 13-year-old is sitting up there with a gun in East Point right now. You and I both all know that. So it's like, I'm just saying, like, there's a fear. There's a real fear. There's stuff going on in the street, and there's that split-second decision, and then boom, you kill a 13-year-old kid.
I can tell you that 13-year-old probably didn't have that gun because of the police. He didn't have that gun because he was scared.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I think there was something going on. He was on the streets. There's something happening, and he had a gun, and he felt like he needed a gun, right? But the video is bad, and anyone who has not seen it, his hands are like this, and that is when he gets shot. Now, it really truly is literally, and I counted it, 3 seconds. He goes like this, and it's like this, and he shoots him when his hands are up. So I'm just saying, like, when people see those things, they fear the police. They feel like I have a better chance running. That's my point.
All right, Curry, we got.
All right, we got Robert. Robert, you got your hand up. We're gonna go ahead with Robert. He had his hand up. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I just wanted to put a quick comment in. So me being someone that never grew up in the US, when I first came here, the first time I got pulled over, and the first time I came here in the US, Florida, got pulled over by a state trooper, very well deserved, was speeding. And pretty much I grew up in Austria to where you never stop on the interstate. I never knew that when I came here, and got pulled over, and I kept on going to the next exit. And a friend of mine said, "What are you doing? You're gonna get in trouble for that." I went, "Why?" Didn't realize it. And then my friends kept on telling me, "Dude, stop." So I stopped, and then the cop, the state trooper, came up to my window pretty mad about the fact that I didn't stop right away, even though I had my hazards on, was on the right lane, and it was slower than everyone else. I just want to put in that comment there, just to give other people some perspective on other people's situations from foreign countries too.
Appreciate that, Robert. Curry, we got 30 minutes and we got several other topics. Let's hit them.
We got to carry. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead and show the other one in Mexico. I think that's the one.
Mexico.
New Mexico.
I'm sorry about New Mexico. Sorry about that. I jumped over to the other country. I jumped over the other side.
Come back.
We gotta work on time and not geography, boy. I'm gonna give y'all a 3rd grade lesson when we get off the
All right. All right, let me know if you guys can hear this or not, because I was hearing that people weren't hearing. Okay, so this is a traffic stop. Let's see, this happened in February, but I guess the video was just released. Hold up.
I sent this to the academy, and they showed it to the recruit class on Monday.
Hey Kim, sorry to put you on the spot like that. Do you mind just giving us do you want to just give a quick rundown of kind of the scenario so we can kind of just pick up where I mean, obviously it's a traffic stop, but do you want to just give us a little background?
He pulled this guy over for some type of traffic violation, and so he's standing there on the passenger side talking to him.
Okay.
And I think the officer was just relaxed the whole time. Sure. And he says, "Okay, well, I want to get your license, and I want to go back and check your license and everything, make sure that you're okay." And he said, we're going to walk back to the truck together. And the guy said, "Okay," but you're seeing the video as he's walking, he's not even paying attention to the guy. And the next thing he sees is that AR-15. I mean, it's, and they froze it where you don't see him actually get shot, but it's like 5, 6, 7 times. It's he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, so thank you, Kim. So we're gonna play this and you can see, I think there's the picture in picture up the upper left, you'll actually see him handling over his registration, all that stuff. So here we go.
And it's kind of a long video too.
Yeah, I sped it up a little.
Enlarge it, Mike.
You did.
It is.
You guys see that or no?
Yes.
Where your sound at, Mike?
Huh? Yeah, so I could run my checks in while running my checks, and then you'll show me the picture right away. Because paperwork I gotta do. You know? Hey, real quick. You'll fire. Mind if I take it off you for my safety? All right, hold on. All right, let's go to my paper, okay?
What's up, man? Come on, man. Come on.
Mike, do you have a picture of the takedown too?
Come on. Come on.
No, are you saying when they arrested him later on?
Yeah, it was pretty.
You know what? I didn't even look. Let me see if it's on this video.
It may be attached to this video. It was attached to the one that I had.
You know what, Kim? If you want to put it in the group chat, I can send me the link. I can pull it up.
He was killed, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have. Yeah, I don't know if it goes.
Let it keep playing. It may play that part. Because you're gonna see some other people pull up.
Were those officers or were those civilians?
That was the officer.
It should be attached to this.
It looked like some type of tactical unit.
Yeah, it is.
Oh wow. Hit maneuver.
Watch out! But see, he's ready. Look at him. He is ready.
Hey, get the fuck back!
That's the same way the police need to be. That man jumped out of that truck and he was ready. But they killed his ass though.
Thank you.
Everybody meet Kim Jones.
Meet Kim Jones.
Kim Jones.
Tell us how you really feel.
They got that ass though.
But this is what you can say when, I don't want to say the officer got complacent. I don't, we always talk about when there are weapons, and his comfort level was different than his comfort level would have been if it was someone that was black with that same weapon inside of the vehicle. So, but this is one thing that we look at, that we have to make a determination how this officer allowed this to take place, and in some other instances they don't even have that, and they are treated, a person of color is treated totally different, and they end up losing their lives with either a wallet, a cell phone, a comb. So how can we say this? But what we're gonna do with just watching that, we're gonna do the Carroll County. Mike, you got that one?
Carroll, yeah, I got Carroll County. Give me 1 second.
Well, Curry,
yes.
While he's pulling that up.
Okay.
I just want to say on the flip side, taking race out of it, just like Kim said,
yes,
videos such as this, they're played at the police academy. And in training, you know, as officers, we see how situations like this cause, you know, officers to die on traffic stops. So I just want the general public to understand that, you know, this is a teaching tool for us as well. And it could, you know, in a negative way affect how some officers' fear levels are elevated during traffic stops.
You guys good? You guys ready?
Yeah.
And which one is this?
Are you guys seeing video on your end?
No.
All right, hold up. This is Carroll County. This just happened.
Oh, this is the one from Monday.
Yeah, so these are guys, it was two cousins from
Yeah, I've
Alabama.
seen that.
Yeah, they're clocked going 110. And hold on one second. I don't know why this is doing this. 1 second, guys. Sorry.
Okay.
Hold up. 1 sec. Sorry.
Mike over there with that dial-up internet.
Yeah, I know, right? You're right. Hold on. This is actually pissing me off because I had everything ready to go. It's like organized. Hold on.
It's just sometimes things just don't go right, Mike.
Hey, stop audio visual. We putting you back on.
No, dude, hold up. Hold on, here we go. Stand by. What the hell? Here we go. Hold on.
That's a strip show?
It's a commercial. It's not my. That is not my iTunes. That is a commercial. Hold on.
Oh my God.
All right, here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Hold on. All right, I'm sorry. Here we go. You guys ready? You can see this, right? All right, here we go. All right. Here we go.
Yeah. All right. Watch it. Watch it.
I don't want it's bad.
Go away.
Why you just didn't run over him?
Well, the good thing about it, it's the officers, none of the officers were injured, but the subject was actually shot and killed. But the thing about it, he wasn't trained in shooting his weapon. So, but luckily, and these are the things that police officers sometimes endure and encounter on certain traffic stops. It's not always, but, and sometimes they take that is, you know, we all take it as a person when we stop, that possibility they might have a weapon. Not saying that they will, but they might. But every situation is different. That's what I tell everybody. We can't We can't say what this one is. Something triggered this officer, that person to run, they fleeing felons. It's all things that we have to look at as a police officer when we're dealing with a traffic stop, or even, you know, answering or being a backup officer to another officer. So, you know, these are something that we show. Go ahead, Kim. I see your hand. I know you got, I'm waiting on that reply. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know what's amazing to me? I think policing is the only job where everybody is always trying to tell us what we should be doing. When I go to the dentist, I don't tell them to what they need to do because I don't know shit about cleaning my teeth. When I go to the doctor, you know, the same thing. I don't tell him what to do because I'm not a doctor. When I take my car to the shop to be repaired or get the oil changed, I don't try to tell him how to change my oil and none of that. But being a police officer, it's like everybody else knows what we need to be doing except us. And that's what bothers me. But I always extend people an invitation to join the academy, their Citizens Police Academy, because they do go through the shoot, don't shoot scenario. And when people go through that, it's like the whole perspective changes. Everything just changes. But like with the female in Minnesota on Sunday, my perspective on that is that once they told them about the warrant that he had, that had anything to do, quote, with the gun, that's when she got paranoid when he went back to the car, thinking that he was going to the car to retrieve a gun. So I'm gonna stop him. But she killed him. She killed him. The guy in the military, when I first saw that video, I thought he was being arrogant because I kept saying, dude, just get out the fucking car. Just get out the car. But then when I heard the other officer, Gutierrez, whatever his name is, and I realized how rude he was, I don't know if anybody else paid attention to his partner, but his partner was looking at him like, dude, really?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get this to go that way. But he never said anything to him. He never said, dude, chill. He never said anything to him. So that led me to believe that he was scared of him himself. And just like the guy in Minnesota, Chauvin, when the guy said he doesn't have a pulse and nobody said anything, he just laid there and died. So it's like these younger officers are scared to say anything to these field training officers because they're in that position where they're supposed to be learning from them. And look what it got you in. It got you fired because you didn't do anything. Because you did absolutely nothing.
But the thing
and all of that just bothers me. That is what has bothered me ever since I've been watching that trial. And I've watched it every day that it's been on. You got to think for yourself, and you have to rely on your training. When you knew that he said nothing about doing CPR for Mr. Floyd, then you should have flipped him over and started CPR. Just because he's a field training officer don't mean that the answer that he gave you was right. And now you lost your damn job listening to him. All y'all going to prison. And that's it shouldn't have to be that way. It should never have to be that way. Because sometimes you can be so into a situation that you're not thinking clearly. And just somebody else saying something to you, you can go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's do that. But to not say anything.
I have a question. I have a question in regards to that.
Okay.
Because I've only been out on the street a year and a half now. And I'll be honest, one of the things that I hated most about the academy was that I was called, you're a recruit, like, son. I was belittled a lot, and that's how I felt. And I get it. I ain't made it yet, but I'm almost there. I'm going to make it. But it was like I was belittled. So it's like when you're in field training and you're in that situation, you almost feel like, what? I mean, do I have any say so now? Because any other time when I have something to say, I'm put on my face, lean and rest. or if I, if I express my opinion, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing wall taps or I'm doing anything like that. When I'm in the hallway, I have to stop and stand at attention because I see somebody. So how do you adjust? I mean, I feel like that's something that needs to be brought up. How do you adjust from going from that environment to now you're in the street and you're an officer, but you see something, but how do I say something? Because these past 6 months, I've been the little guy on the totem pole. So I mean, kind of, where do you adjust? I mean, I'll be honest. I'm glad I'm not that girl. I'm gonna say something. I've said something. I've said many of things out on the street. It doesn't bother me here nor there. But it's almost, I can almost see, and I don't know if they had that same experience, but I can see from my own experience how somebody would hesitate to say something to that training officer.
May I say
That's a
something?
really good point. That's a really good point.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Mr. Hartley, go ahead.
Yeah, yes. I want to say something in response to that. Yes, you are trained at the academy to have discipline and listen before you speak, but you are also trained at the academy that you should always do what is right, and you should always step in when an officer is doing something wrong, because you will be held accountable on that scene. That is drilled in from day one, that if you are on that scene and something is going wrong and you are there and do nothing, you will be held responsible for that.
You part of the problem.
Exactly.
You're gonna be part of the problem. And just what I said earlier, those people didn't do anything, and now they all have lost their job.
Yes.
But she stood by and did nothing. And to the point of, we just saw, I think it was in Chicago, where the black police officer stopped her colleague from having a chokehold, and they ended up firing her.
Buffalo.
And 15 years later, by the way. 15 years.
So she intervened, and in her intervention caused her to fight 15 years, as you said, so that she had the opportunity to get her pension back. That she, like Audrey said, that is so important to get to that level. She had to go back and wait this long time. And go ahead, Anita. I see you want to say something.
And by the way, 800,000.
Hold on, Audrey. Anita. Hold on, Audrey. Anita wanted to say something. Go ahead.
But I just want to say this real quickly to what you said. $800,000 in pension. 800,000. She got recouped. Just saying that.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Make sure, because I had a poor connection sometimes. So I appreciate being on the call and kind of, seeing you guys' perspective. I've prior military service and in the DEA as a criminal analyst. So, trying to understand you guys' process, and it is a process, but there is times when it's a hazing process. I know it's a part of going through, like the military. You go through things where you're a low man on a totem pole, and there is a level of, can you hear me?
You break it up.
I don't think y'all can hear me. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a bad connection. We can talk about it, another time. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Okay. But you are correct. There is a level of going through the process of, like the a recruit said, going through the process of it, and then now being put in a position to make decisions and have a field training officer there, and being able to tell that person to stop what they're doing and not be, because they said, well, why did you stop this? You caused this subject to get away, or it's so confusing for when you have to make that decision. But like Mr. Hartland said, you have to make the right decision. You have to make the right decision.
And I get that, but again, I've never been in a situation, and never in field training was I put in a situation to that severity. Okay. But I did have a field trainer who I just honestly, it didn't sit well with me the way that he was talking to a subject, and it wasn't even a criminal. He was concerned about how his mom was being treated in the nursing home. And I kind of stepped in. I was like, hey, let me see if I can talk to him. And he was like, don't you see them stripes on here? I earn this. I earn it. I'm like, you know what? You can have it. I mean, and that's real though, but it happens. And it sounds good to say you can step in, or you should do this, or you should do that. But sometimes it just don't work like that. Like I'm sitting here and I'm getting chastised in front of this person about him having an SPO stripe that I didn't give a damn about it at that point, because I didn't like the way he was handling the situation.
Did you express that to your supervisor?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned about it, but it's at that point now he got 3 stripes. So just imagine how he acts now. I mean, he went from 1 to 3. So just how you think that worked out?
Hey, Credit, what he say to you? Yeah, what?
I earned this.
Let me tell y'all. Let me tell the story right quick. My first day in field training, I was in zone 4 on zone 2 on morning watch, and the person I was supposed to ride with was on vacation. So they put me with Quintana's husband. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
Green.
And so, we go to roll call, everything, and I'm standing outside. This is the old precinct. I'm standing outside, and then he goes, go to the car and get your stuff, and I'll meet you back here in front of the precinct. And then he started talking. He was like, shit, I don't feel like field training nobody. I ain't got time for all this. So I followed him out to the parking lot. And I said, you know what? If you don't want to field train me, I said, because you old as fuck anyway. I said, if you don't want to field train me, I'll go find somebody else to field train me. I said, because I didn't come here for that. Okay. If you don't want to field train people, then get your SPO stripe taken back. I mean, we went at it to the point where he looked at me and he said, you know what? I like your attitude. He said, get it.
You know what, Kim, and I had that experience though, because I don't let people stun me. I'm sorry.
When I left zone 2, he gave me his phone number. He said, look, if you have any problems, from now on, he said, you call me. And I did call him, but I respected him, but for you to say that you don't feel like field training anybody, then I'm like, well, I ain't gonna learn shit from you, no way. And I told him that. And from that point on, we were like this. We were like this.
Well,
I didn't have no more problems out of him. He didn't have any problems out of me.
So sometimes you have to check people, because they sometimes they in their own
looking at the queen of checking. Okay.
Sometimes have their own emotions that they're going through. They could have a bad day, and then now here I gotta watch out for this dang on rookie who I gotta take under my wing and shit. I got shit going on at home. I got all this stuff happening. Now I gotta be. So sometimes you gotta check them. It's like, look, if you don't want to do this, hey, I'll get somebody else to ride with. So okay, that's fine with me. And then you go back in the office and say, Super, you don't want me to ride with it. And let them handle it. That ain't what you handle.
We've been good friends ever since.
I think what we learned from the George Floyd incident, though, is you don't want to be the Asian guy. The Asian guy in that whole scenario, just standing there, sitting there, doing nothing. And I think at this point, whether rookie, whatever you are, afraid or not, I better do something. Even if you better do something, you better tap them on the shoulder. And so even if they do look at the tape, they say, well, I tried to tell them to get up.
But when he didn't respond to you, why you just didn't push him off of him? I would have lost my job that day, because he would have got kicked in the face or something. Because I'm not going to sit there while you kill this man. That ain't real.
You and Frederick both have valid points, because Kim, I know both of y'all. You got a strong personality. I don't see you sitting back letting that happen like that. But at the same time, there are some officers in field training that are soft-mannered, where they sit back like, I'm just gonna act like I ain't see that, or I ain't gonna see nothing. I'm just gonna let that go. Because boy, and then when they go home, they call the people in their academy class and like, boy, my field trainer crazy there. Like, he just did this, he did that. And we hope that they would step up and say and do something. But the reality of it is, a lot of times, a lot of them have let stuff go. That's the reality.
Okay, and so when we look at this, it's all about making that decision that we need to make. That is, I sit there and watch the George Floyd. I sit there and watch the video, and I saw the Asian officer who really didn't know what to do. And okay, let's look at this here. We got some citizens on here. So Danny.
Oh, call anybody but him.
But if you saw something like that, and like the other people, they were standing there, what citizen involvement should be taking place in a situation like that when in that situation you had a nurse that was trained professional that was standing there, you had another subject who knew martial arts that was standing there, but that fear level that they had was so high that they were telling them to get off of them, but nobody acted. Now we know if they had acted, the situation would, maybe they would have got shot, hurt, injured, or something of that nature. But
maybe he would have got off of him and the man would still be alive.
Well, with that question, Curry, I wonder about that myself. And I think if he didn't die, would we even heard about this? If somebody had interacted, would we even heard about this? And the answer is probably no. They probably would have then locked that person up, and George Floyd would have went to jail, but he would have still been here. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those, it's like when you watch ABC and they have What Would You Do? Like in different situations, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's different. Some people ain't going for that, and some people gonna say something, and some people gonna do something. And then some people aren't. That's the reality of the world.
So since we have someone from the training academy on, and the question is, when you have a situation for a field training officer, how do departments handle field training officers when they feel like they get complaints by the recruits, or the recruits ever asked how they feel about their field training officer?
Recruits are always asked about their field training experience, and we encourage recruits to give an evaluation on the field training officer, just as the field training officer gives an evaluation on the officer in training. So they're equally evaluated. And let's just be honest, okay? No situation is perfect. Do we have some that probably do not need to be field training? Probably so. But that means we need other officers to step up to fill those roles in, because the reality is we have recruits constantly coming out that need to be trained. So, but just like I always try to tell people, you don't argue your citation on the side of the road with the police officer. If there's a situation with your field training, when I say situation, I mean minor situation, of a difference of how to handle a particular situation, you handle that by calling either your class coordinator, your sergeant, because you still are assigned to the academy, and you call your sergeant and have a conversation about that particular situation to get clarity. I myself have received several phone calls like that and have done reports on situations the day or two after, because the recruit was very uncomfortable, and I was too, after they told me what happened. So there are ways to handle it. I had a situation where a recruit called me and said that their field training officer tried to chase some guys in a parking garage for breaking the vehicles. Well, when he caught the guy, he had to tackle him and roughed him up and put him in handcuffs. When the security guard came out, he said that wasn't the guy. Grady came out, gave him some medical attention. He code 12'd it. I said, no. You come on in and you do a report, and we're gonna do a report on that today.
12?
I'm sorry, code 12 is nothing to report. I'm sorry, nothing to report. Nothing happened, nothing to report. There's no incident, nothing happened. And that is totally against policy, because the fact is, if that person wants to complain about anything 6 months, a year down the road, there's no documentation whatsoever of that encounter with that officer. And I said, no, you come in, we're gonna do a report, CYA, so you can be covered, because of course it wasn't right, but you try to cover yourself and say, no, I didn't feel like that was right.
So Hartley, I got a quick question. The
Yes, ma'am.
incident in Virginia, so after they pepper sprayed him, beat him down to the ground and all that, didn't they just pretty much cold 12 that call?
They code 12 to Kim, yes. They code 12, yes.
I mean, how you do all that to somebody? How you pepper spray them, kick their ass, and just tell them, have a nice day?
That's exactly what they did, Kim.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, but Kim, even more than that, there's video that shows them saying, hey, we don't need to escalate this. We don't need to report.
I saw all of that, but
Right.
I just didn't remember if that, because I saw them when they took the handcuffs off of him and he was sitting on the back of the truck and they
Right.
were talking. And I'm like, but what you gonna lock him up for? And I just kept saying it to myself, because what did he do? You know, the tag was in the top right-hand corner, but I think after they finally got to a lighted position, they never looked up there because it was visible. You could see it. And to do all of that to him and then just, okay, well, you have a nice night. Do you need an escort? Because we know we pepper sprayed you. You know, you just let the man go down the road. What the hell?
Kim, and I think someone talked about it and touched on it earlier when they said, when they mentioned bravado, when they mentioned that the officer had to show he was in control and was not going to back down.
Right.
I think we allow our egos to take over when we should say, you know what, whoa, you know what, let me back down. Let me turn the throttle down a little bit because this situation does not warrant all of this aggression. Now, do I have a problem with them starting out that way? I do not, but at no point did he communicate with their driver and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I stopped you. Why didn't you stop initially? All those things would have de-escalated that situation very, very quickly.
Yeah, Brian, you got your hand up. Go ahead, Brian. Then I'm gonna go to Robert and then Danny.
Okay, how you guys doing? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so now, say it again.
I said since you got off the phone. Go ahead.
I'm learning how to work this. I'm learning how to work these phones, man. So the question is, Tyrone and Miss Kim, I would love to get your opinion on this. So the question is, what do we do, right? What's next? How can we make a change? Like, what can we do right now? So as far as right now, what I did, I created a product. I created a product that's going to help us start surviving these encounters and hopefully make a police officer feel a whole lot safer. And the product, the Pocket.
The what?
Can you hear me?
No, yeah, go ahead, Kim. Go ahead.
What Kim say? I know she said something funny, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so this product right here is called the Pocket USA. This is something I created just to help with traffic stop, right? So this just in case, if you or your loved ones is getting pulled over by the police, you will already have your license and insurance already in this pocket. So all that you do as you pulling over is roll your window down and attach this to the outside of your vehicle. So as the police officer is walking up, he will already have your license and insurance on the outside of your vehicle. He will see both hands visible on the wheel. So now he should be in a comfortable state of mind. And you as a driver should feel a whole lot safer knowing you don't have to move or reach for anything and then be accused of moving and reaching for something that's going to harm him. So all he have to do is take this product off your door, take it to his vehicle, run your license. Now, if he was to give you a ticket or a warning, he can place it right back in his pocket, attach it right back on your door. You drive away, he walks away. So the product, I feel, just controls the situation. It protected your inner peace. It kept negativity out of your vehicle, and it helped with social distancing. So what do you guys think about that? And
I love it. How much it costs?
This product right here is only $12.99, and then I have another version I just created. This one only attached to your door. This one attached to your window and your door.
I think that is a perfect product for all drivers, but let alone young drivers. Because I think just what you're saying, the fear factor comes in when I don't see your hands. And that's what we often preach, putting your hands on the door. So I like the product. I think that's dope.
Well,
the only problem I have with it, so you stick that on the outside of the door, right?
Yes, ma'am.
then if
Yeah.
if I'm getting this off your door and your hands are not on the wheel, you free to do whatever you want to do. You could pick up a gun and just shoot me while I'm going back to my car.
My vision for this product is for your hands to stay on the wheel. That's my vision, to keep your window down so you can keep open communication with the police officer.
So selling that, is it gonna come with instructions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but does that help? Would something like that had helped Philando Castile when he said, I have
Yes.
a permit?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I'm not done with my question.
I'm
Would it
sorry.
help Philando Castile when he said, I'm reaching now to show you my permit. I'm X, Y, and Z. I mean, I think it's a good
Can I
idea.
respond?
I think it's a good idea, but I think there's a deeper thing. I think there's a deeper problem with this. Like, I think there's a.
But I understand what you're saying, Audrey, but
Can I respond?
we have to do something. And this is
I
something,
agree.
it's not
No,
gonna,
no,
it's not
I
gonna
agree.
solve, it's not gonna solve everything, but it's actually
No,
gonna give them an
I
opportunity to have
listen.
another out.
Listen, I absolutely agree. I started with saying like, I think it's a good idea, but I also said, but what do you say to the person who says, I have my hands out of the vehicle, i.e. the lieutenant in Virginia. Listen, I have a gun in the car. I have a permit for this car. I'm gonna reach now for my car, i.e. Philando Castile, and I'm gonna show it to you. So it's just like, you know, I think there's Mr. Bryan, I think it's a great idea. I actually do. I think it's excellent. But I do see the other side of it where it's like, yo, if you pulling up like, I'm gonna show this guy something tonight and I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z because I harbor implicit bias, you're gonna do it whether you have something, you know, sticking to your window or not.
And I got that. So
Go Harley, go Harley, go Harley.
And I think that, and I you have a valid point, but just like we teach police officers, one tool on your belt is not 100% effective in every situation. So, but the more tools you have, give you a better chance of survival and reaching a peaceful outcome of that situation. So I think this is just a tool to help. And as a father of two young Black men, one 18 and one about to turn 16, about to start driving, I think that is a very excellent tool for them to have. Now, is it going to fit every particular situation? No, it's not, but it is a tool. And I think the more tools you have and the more that you can think through things, the better outcome you'll have. Now, and I want to say this also, Philando Castile, I still don't understand how he did not get time for that. I just had to say that.
Yes. Okay, Brian.
No, but Mr. Hartley,
hold on, Audrey. We don't have that much time left. So we're going to go ahead and let Brian finish with his product. Then we're going to go to Robert and we're going to go to Danny.
I appreciate
Brian.
everybody's comment. The website is thepocketusa.com. I have two versions, one for $12.99 and one for $19.99. I appreciate it if you guys tell a friend. And I'm just trying to do my part. That's all I'm trying to do. And speaking of the Philando Castile, that's what made me get up to do something. I couldn't keep waiting on no government. I couldn't wait on no mayor. I couldn't wait on no signed petitions. I had to protect myself right now. And that's what I did.
Put your website in the chat, Brian.
Brian, put your website in the chat.
Got you.
So Brian, does everybody on this site get one for free?
Trying to get the hookup. Kim, trying to get the hookup.
Always trying to get the hookup.
Hey,
You're already retired, girl. Don't pay your money. You need to go ahead and buy at least 10. Kim said she's gonna buy 10. I already got it. Tim, I'm better than you, Kim. She got 10.
Hey,
Can I get a
y'all,
police discount?
hey, I gotta go. I gotta do another interview. So God bless everybody. I can finish the conversation, but I gotta go.
Okay, we'll still continue on. Robert, go ahead.
Oh God, this is embarrassing. This $6.
Go ahead, Danny.
Okay.
Danny.
Oh
Real
yeah, I
quick,
was just wondering what I don't as a citizen, I don't know the laws. Is there what is the leeway if if an officer pulls you over while you're on the highway or any street and you want to go to a lighted area? How much like time are we allowed? You know, is that allowed first of all? And what's the leeway? Is there should I call 911 and say I want to
May I?
go to a lighted area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I?
Well, what's the actual
May I?
rule on that?
Go ahead, Dre.
Okay, there's okay, as an officer, if I'm pulling you over, your job is to make me feel comfortable. You make me feel comfortable by slowing down, cutting your hazards on, or cutting your blinkers on. And if you're going to drive to a well-lit area, hey, dial 911. Hey, I'm being pulled over by a police officer right now. It's dark. I don't want to stop in the dark. I'm trying to get to a well-lit area. I just want to let 911 know. That way the dispatcher will let the officer know what's going on, and that will make him feel more at ease, and he will not be at a heightened sense of awareness. So he won't jump out guns blaring. So your part is to make me feel comfortable. My part is to hopefully lead this encounter with either, a warning, a citation, and I go home. So that's the goal of the police officer, and that's your goal right there. You make me feel comfortable, I'll communicate with you.
Is there an actual law though, or a rule? Like, can you, if I don't call 911, are you allowed? Like, is that a fleeing? You know what I mean? Like, is there?
Okay, well,
what's the
once
actual
again-
technical rule?
Okay, but once again, if I'm pulling you over and you don't stop,
Right.
then I'm going to anticipate that you have no intentions of stopping. So your goal is to let me know that you have an intentions of stopping. You just want to do it in a well-lit area. So at some point, if you have not stopped, and we keep going a quarter mile, a half a mile down the road, I'm going to charge you with fleeing and eluding because you have not stopped yet. But if you've dialed 911 and we're driving down the road, okay, yeah, radio, okay, I copy that. We're coming up on a gas station about a mile down the road. I'm directly behind them, telling them to pull in that gas station. That's normal. But let's just be honest. In Atlanta, we're not in a rural area, so we're pretty well lit. It's very few places, unless you're in a neighborhood, that's not well lit at night.
No, don't say neighborhood. If you're in the hood, it ain't well lit.
I didn't want to say hood, Kim. I didn't want to say hood.
Fair enough. I appreciate it. Hey, and to the guy selling those things, man, just as a piece of advice, maybe you should try to, you already sound like you tried out for Shark Tank, so that's perfect. Your spiel is perfect, but maybe go to try to sell those to police departments, and they give them out on, they start to give them out at traffic stops as well.
Yeah, Brian has been working with a lot of law enforcement outside. I invited him on from Clubhouse. I met him on Clubhouse, and we are pushing his product because we feel that it's one thing that could possibly, as Dre said, is a tool that we can use to ease an officer and ease a driver, especially someone who's a young driver. So it's inside of the box here, and we're gonna push it out on our Clippers and Cop sites. We're gonna push it out on other.
But we also got
sites.
media people on here. Can't they do a story with him on that?
Yeah, we got Mike on here. We got a couple of radio hosts on here. So we'll definitely look at having some type of way to have him come out and talk about it and get this information out to, especially in the Metro Atlanta area. So we can definitely do that. Who is that?
Now, Journey on the way. You gonna play Minecraft right quick? All right.
I got the. Okay, Robert, you get your 6-piece.
Actually, it was a box. But real quick, I wanted to ask all the officers on here, and maybe some of the sergeants, or I don't know how any of it works, to be honest. But when it comes to if one officer that is new to being an officer versus an officer that is training the new officer, and both of their reports don't match, what's really the procedure? And
Body worn camera.
It's one report.
Body worn
if there
camera.
isn't any body worn cameras, for example, I know that the neighboring county from me doesn't have any cameras on their bodies because I got pulled over recently and I noticed that they didn't have any. So
well, normally if you don't see a body cam, it's their cameras in their car, and it's recording the conversation that the dash cam and their mics that they have on is recording the conversation. They might not see it, but they can actually hear the conversation that's going on between you and the officer when they go back and review it. In most cases, very few departments that don't have dash cams in their car. Some might not have body cams, and you're correct, but they do have dash cam.
And I watch a lot of TV, and I know I shouldn't judge things off of television, but when it comes to the perspective of the regular citizen, and there being backlash between the superior, like the trainer versus the trainee, pulling crap on the trainee for snitching him, is what usually is that commonplace? Is what usually happens with that kind of situation?
That's TV, Mike.
That's I think what we also
Does
need to
that ever
understand
happen then?
is all officers are, if you have a complaint, let's say this, if you have a complaint with an officer, there's a process that you can do when you have a complaint on an officer. And we think that people should complain, but a lot of times you go back and you look at an officer's record and you find out he had 21 complaints. But in that 21 complaints, what are those 21 complaints? And how is this going to play in this factor of this officer? Because a lot of times people say, well, if an officer gets fired here or he leaves or resigns before, he can go to another agency. So it's other type of legislation that people need to look at as well and figure out, hey, how can we keep officers being one bad officer going to another jurisdiction, even though he's resigned before he left? So there is a process. And yes, you know, a lot of people say you snitching and things of that nature. But the one thing about it is, as a police officer, you have your livelihood. And your goal is to get through this whole department, work in this profession. Most people have made this a job. This is not a job. Policing is a profession. And what most people have forgot, and most people has came in as a job. So we really need to look at that. And I really, you know, appreciate you coming on, because you have well, he just dropped off. He was driving around. Oh, he moved around. But it's one of the things that we have to look at, because people from other countries look at us different. They look at us different, and they see how we react in law enforcement. I lived in Europe, and we know in Europe you don't mess with the police. That it's just a common thing. I lived in Germany. You just didn't mess with the police. But
I come from Austria, so very close.
Yeah. So you didn't mess with the police, and they had that position, but they treated people with respect too. So
most of the time.
Most of the time they did.
But that's everywhere, though, I think.
Yeah. So what do we do? Because we're more visualized. You see more of our stuff on TV, because you know we're Americans. Everything is going to be glorified, and I think several things will be a takeaway. If you feel like that you were encountered, situation has been encountered with a police officer that is not valid, or something is taking place, you need to file an official complaint with the department. There are OPS, Internal Affairs, Office of Professional Standards in Atlanta, and other agencies. So you need to file that complaint and stick with that complaint, because if more people complain, departments have to take a look at that, because departments become more liable. These departments are paying out these cities are paying out some big money for these officers who are making these mistakes. And they're trying to figure out what the process is so they wouldn't have to figure that out. And I think that what we need to do is, this is one element. This is one. Clippers and Cops is one of many are trying to figure the things out and try to say, hey, how can we bridge that gap between law enforcement and the community? Because I have a son, I have grandson, granddaughter. When they grow up, I want them to be able not to be afraid of the police, but I also want the police to be able to respect them and treat them like they would treat their own family member if they was. And I know sometimes he's like, well, you write your mother a ticket. Well, I had to think about that. Yeah, but she might get one, but I tell her I love her afterwards. And I might not get no more pie or anything else, but that's okay. but you have to do your job. And if they're doing something wrong, you know that. And so I want to close the day and appreciate everybody. Brian, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely look at your promoting and get your information out there. And I thank everybody for coming on and taking the time out from different areas. We got people from Houston, we got people from Birmingham, we got people from New York, New Jersey, and all these other places. And this is a platform that we're using. And we want everybody's opinion to be what you call it. Danny, that chicken look good. I'm about to go eat because I'm hungry myself. So we
That damn air fryer's a mofo.
we appreciate everybody for coming on, and stay tuned for the next one that we have, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, and we will talk to y'all later. Goodbye.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.